You're watching Morning at NTV.
Keep away from people who belittle your dreams and ambitions. Well, small people do that. But the really great make sure that you too become great too. Well, my name is Brian Londo. Welcome to the show. Another beautiful Monday, live from the NTV studios and also at the International Conference Center and the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. Beautiful sunrise. And of course, as you wake up, no Monday blues. So let's get started right away with the question of the day. Simple question right there, and obviously if you do some civics, I guess political education, you can just answer that real easy and get a chance to walk away with a beautiful mug from Morning at NTV. And of course, the first 5 respondents each walk away with that mug. Head over to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. You can also use our Twitter platform at Morning at NTV, and feel free to follow us individually. My handle is at MBGold2, is at Kasiate, at Mebkeb, who is not with us this morning. She needs to get some rest. But also Joel Senyu at the rooftop, and Kasiate, and at Ismail, that is at Dakaba Chigong. Of course, don't forget to tag at NTVUganda. Our new website is live, up and running, ntv.co.ug. You can also be reminded that we have gone mobile. NTV Mob is our app on your phone. You can watch NTV wherever you can. Go to our page and you can check out those settings, or you can actually download it from Play Store if you're using a Samsung device. And of course, let's get started with this Monday right here on the biggest, the best breakfast experience in the country. Coming up, the stories that are making headlines.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Of course, a very warm welcome to you, everyone watching us, whether on your telly or live on YouTube. That is youtube.com/NTVUganda. This morning, hundreds of youth in Kanungu district have asked the Prime Minister, Mama Mbabazi, to start for the presidency in 2016 or face disciplinary action from a council of elders in their region. The youth made their declaration at a Youth Day celebration held at the district headquarters. We have a report.
A multitude of young people in Kanungu district marked the International Youth Day with lots of pomp and fanfare. The excited youngsters asked the chief guest, Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi, to openly state his position regarding his alleged 2016 presidential bid.
If we can get the president in Kanungu district, we can be far ahead.
I support the idea of the Prime Minister to come out openly if he's going to stand in 2016. Because as a party NRM, we are getting disorganized.
The youth handed Mbabazi a spear, a shield, and a stool which represents symbols of leadership among the Bachiga ethnic group. Prime Minister's supporters also gave him a portrait with wordings that called on him to be their presidential candidate in 2016. They auctioned the portrait to raise money for their youth projects. Mbabazi has on several occasions denied having any presidential ambitions of 2016.
First of all, I have not launched any presidential bid. So how would I solicit money for a presidential bid that does not exist? falsehoods, falsehoods, falsehoods.
The Kanungu youth have for long been calling on Mbabazi to throw his hat in the ring, but their pleas haven't yet yielded results. They are now warning of taking the Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi before a council of elders to resolve the matter if he fails to clearly state his position.
And if we need to be, he owes us explanation.
Mbabazi did not comment on the demands for him to stand for presidency, but promised to support the youth in getting services delivered to them in time. He vowed to fight and win the struggle to have more young people included in the development of the country.
Itwe abentaro iturwanaga singurwa nga turarwana singur yo mutarunda uruna nayeta bikamu umenye ngo nihiriye kurukira ki kusingur.
Yes, the Honorable already has a song to his name. I guess there's another opportunity to get another rap. Now, moving on. The 2014 National Housing Population Census ended yesterday with 97% of the population covered. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, at least 90% of the country was covered, with the rural areas registering greater numbers. We have more in this report.
The 2014 census exercise came to a close the evening after Uganda Bureau of Statistics extended it by 1 day to allow for more people to be enumerated. According to the statistics body, over 97% of the population has been covered.
But I would say the level where we've reached, we are more than 95%. In fact, we may be at about 97, 98%. That's a very good percentage.
The partial results of this year's census will be out in October this year. Officials say the rural population were more receptive to the exercise in comparison to urban areas.
Like in northeast Uganda, Karamoja, Teso, some places flooded and displaced some villages. So it became an issue of how do we enumerate these villages. But this was handled, it was a challenge.
Despite the success, this year's census has been dogged by several challenges. Yumbe, Alua, Moyo are just of the districts where enumerators faced hardships.
Challenges on border conflicts. Some of them were very serious. They were taken on very seriously, very passionately by the leaders involved, especially in the Western region, sub-region. Some of the border issues were between districts, for instance, Yumbe and Arua.
Residents of Mijingo Island, which is still contested by Uganda and Kenya, also had a chance to be enumerated under tight security.
First, our brothers from Kenya had disputed and were saying they were not going to allow us to conduct census in Mijingo Islands. But after negotiations, they did allow.
This was Uganda's 10th national enumeration exercise, the 5th after independence and the 2nd organized by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Ivan Chimulichigozi, NTV.
Now, the tribal clashes that broke out in the western Uganda districts of Bundibujo, Toroko and Kasese in July this year have left an elderly couple traumatized over the disappearance of their only son. The couple is calling on security agents to present their son's body after 3 months of searching. The July clashes saw at least 100 people get killed by unidentified attackers. More in this report.
Mariam Naziwa is a 63-year-old woman living in Pulambangira village in Bundibujo district. She's a distraught woman who's been grieving for 3 months for her only son who was killed in tribal clashes that rocked Bundibujo, Ntoroko and Kasese districts in July this year. Her 23-year-old son, Kenneth Bulemu, went missing on the eve of the attacks that broke out in Bundibujo district. Miriam still has vivid memories of the last conversation she had with her son. Miriam's husband, Asanancio Bulemu, says he got concerned about his son's whereabouts when he heard the sounds of gunshots ringing out in Bundibujo.
nkatulika ekyegolo nabuuza Kenneth aliwa nti tanajja. Kumakya nabuuza Kenneth aliwa nkutanajja.
Security operatives arrested many residents after the July attacks. Mariam and her husband kept looking for their son, hoping he was among the arrested people, but their hopes were dashed.
Munanga mukomera taliyo. Munanga nebalimu amudi taliyo.
The couple's hope of seeing their son alive kept fading with each passing day. They now want the police to hand over his remains so as to accord him a decent burial.
Nayebulikana kwa abantu muntu nobeera ng'otunuulira n'ekikuba ebweru nti omwana ki nga wakiri nfuna omulambo gw'omwana wange newankubadde nti oba baamutematema oba baamwokya.
On the 20th of July this year, the police exhumed bodies of some of the victims of the tribal clashes to carry out DNA tests and later reburied them at a cemetery.
What we did was to submit these samples for DNA profiling. Should anybody come up to claim that he lost somebody and is willing to provide a sample for DNA, then we shall still go and get it.
Over 100 people are reported to have been killed by unknown attackers armed with guns, machetes and spears in the July incident. Most of the victims were buried in a mass grave, which left their relatives at a loss on how to identify the bodies of their loved ones.
I hope that the lady will find her son, and of course we'll follow this story very closely. Now moving on, the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, has introduced some stringent regulations for East African motorists intending to drive their cars across the region's borders. One of the regulations entails getting a clearance certificate from the East African Police Chiefs Corporation before being allowed entry into a neighboring country. The revelation was made by the Uganda Director of Interpol, Hassan Kasinje, and Solomon Selwanja reports.
Motor vehicle theft within the East African community continues to be a problem that the region's security organs are fighting to stamp out. Many carjackers operating cross-border syndicates often beat the surveillance of the police. Kenyan police records many cases of vehicle theft annually. The region's industrial powerhouse has ruthless gangs that are capable of making off with whatever car they set their eyes on. In 2008, a Range Rover belonging to former Kenyan President Daniel Arap Moi was stolen from a showroom in the capital, Nairobi. Just 6 months later, a BMW escort car of President Uhuru Kenyatta was stolen at gunpoint by a gang of 4 armed men. The car was later recovered in Wandegea, a Kampala suburb, 6 days after the theft. How this car passed the border is a question that has puzzled many security operatives. Now, the international police have introduced new regulations for motorists intending to drive through the region's borders.
We are going to have motor vehicle clearance certificate. If you're driving a vehicle from Uganda to Kenya or South Sudan, Uganda must issue a clearance certificate to that vehicle.
The new regulations will take effect in January next year.
If any vehicle is trying to cross the border without this clearance certificate, that vehicle is going to be arrested and impounded.
The international police also plans to install a communication gadget known as the Interpol Eye, which enables the authorities to carry out a 24-hour surveillance on all borders within the region. The communication system will have a database of all cars reported missing within the East African community.
Every vehicle that would be coming through the border, they would just take the chassis number, not even registration number, because it can change. Chassis number, run it through as you are clearing your vehicle. Then the Interpol officers would be able to tell that this vehicle is stolen or not stolen.
But for the system to be effective, all police stations will have to constantly update their database to line with the system.
I'm calling upon every person who loses a vehicle. When you go to the police station, we need something that is called a VIN, a vehicle identification number, which is a chassis number. That's the most important numbers that we need. Then the police stations will communicate them to us and we shall populate our databases.
Quite often, the stolen cars are driven to Uganda before their final destination in the Democratic Republic of Congo or South Sudan. This year alone, the international police recovered 120 cars in Uganda that were suspected to have been stolen from the UK and Australia.
Well, you can follow these stories closely on our Facebook page, NTV Uganda, and of course, Morning at NTV. But also go to our website, ntv.co.ug, and get the latest. You can go to also subscribe to our YouTube channel, NTV Uganda. Of course, feel free to share the conversations, and of course, Twitter at NTV Uganda and at Morning at NTV. This morning in the Daily Monitor, and I know the gentlemen at the rooftop, Simon and Joel, are following this closely. MPs struggle with life after Parliament. Simon, is this something that is a surprise that most of our MPs will be rich in quotes while they are MPs, and after that look, for lack of a better word, like a church mouse after they are done with their tenure in the House?
Well, Brian, it doesn't come much as a surprise, and indeed, if one even say that members of Parliament are struggling with life in Parliament, not even after Parliament, that would still not be a fallacy. But of course, that's a disturbing story that we're waking up to as a headline story in the Daily Monitor this morning, and we'll be looking just at that and many other interesting stories that make it the headline on the front pages of the Daily Monitor, including a look at the East African, which is the region's leading weekly newspaper, and of course, we'll be looking at the Tri-Weekly Observer and many more. So that's it for our press review until we return after this. Welcome back. It's Monday, fresh start to the week, the 8th day of September 2014. We're coming to you live from the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. Myself, Simon Kasiate, and Joel Senyonyi. Mabel conspicuously missing, should I say, missing in action, and I'm sure that I'm sure Brian has already explained to our viewers why we are only a bunch of testosterone-prone gentlemen without the lady.
Good morning.
Not a very good morning per se. It's just, the new start to the term, and the owners of the cars are now back in town, and so there is increasing traffic even at 6:30 in the morning, when many of us were used to taking a very clean ride from our homes to wherever places we're going to work at. Now it is as active as 8:30 a.m. So the owners of the cars are back, the stress is back to the city, and of course it has a ripple down effect, including a not limited, and I think we discussed this in the big story. Traffic police on the road. They're very wonderful, hard-working guys, like the ones you find at Kitgum House roundabout right now, guiding the huge traffic that is just hitting the city, working so hard to ensure that the city is not clogged. Then there are these idle and disorderly brigands who are wearing white and claiming to be police officers, standing in little corners and nooks on highways and other inconspicuous places, just waiting to flag down any car that comes by to extort money from you.
I've seen a few on Acacia Avenue.
Yeah, all because they have children they need to take to school, or because they have bills to pay, and so they are using this rush hour to crack down on. I have one of them who flagged me yesterday on just beginning the Northern Bypass with a lot of arrogance and gusto, looks around, looks for what to charge me for, and then asks me for a bribe in frankly at times.
I'm sure you're speaking your local dialect.
No. He's a guy called Buyinza here, very dark and ugly and all looking so mean. And then he's talking with a lot of arrogance and, So I asked him, he asked me, so do you have a driving permit? With a lot of arrogance.
Do you actually have one?
Yes, I do. But then I looked at him, I said, by the time a man my age is driving a car that looks this good, you think he has no driving permit? Just put his leg. And he says, I don't know. Then I said, well, in the circumstance, you look like you do not know much, and I wouldn't blame you. Oh,
but even then, you have...
Then the man takes offense, meanwhile. The man then
charging you with insulting a police officer on duty.
Where I have a ticket, because I told him, are you issuing me a ticket or not? Because I don't want you to waste my time. You issue a ticket for whatever crime you think I have committed.
What did you write?
Then I grabbed it from him, just put it in the back seat of the car, gave him an expired ID and said, you can go. Showed him the middle finger.
So
but
there
anyway,
you are. So you were charged for having an expired ID?
No. He asked me for it. I told him I don't have it. All I have is this ID.
But you have 48 hours to produce your permit, so...
You see, I didn't want him to go into an argument with that guy because, you see, I don't know. You see, right now, he looked a middle-aged guy, a guy who's possibly in his 40s without much of a rank. So clearly, this is the kind of people that went into police when they have become vagabonds on the village. They're looking for them. They have nothing else to do, and they end up in the police force. And I think that the police administration need to crack down on some of their own who otherwise abuse the good name of the police. There are some wonderful police officers who are out there to help you, who are out there to serve. I mean, people are busy killing each other, committing all sorts of heinous crimes, and rather than explain to a motorist on the road who you think may not be on the right side of the law, for you are trying to show some kind of bravado. Maybe he was living true to his name. His name is Buyinza, so he wanted to show a bit of Buyinza on me.
But well, we citizens have something called citizen arrest. We can arrest them too. There is one I gave a bloody nose years back, and to this date he remembers me. So we should exercise that as well before we wait for the police to crack down on their own. Sometimes they don't know them, other times they are in cahoots anyway. So we should crack the whip ourselves the time.
He was using the power that he had with him. He had the uniforms or whatever. Now I'm also using the platform that I have, which is media. So it is, and I think
I hope he has a mobile TV on his phone.
We should appeal to the citizens out there. I think now to send us, you know our Twitter handles, at Kasiate, at Morning at NTV, at Mebkeb, at MB Gold and all that. Send to us those interesting stories of the kind of police harassment that you get on the roads.
Yes.
Some pictures, some experiments.
So
but what you do is they always have their names written on their uniforms. Get their name and their police number. Share it with us. We'll share it with the police authorities. Because at the end of the day, police needs to understand that while they're on the road to serve and protect, people are out there watching and expect better services from them. So we will act as a conduit between your plight and the action of the police administration. And I can tell you, I will lead by example. By the time I'm done with this Buyinza character and my expired ID, he will have realized that it is not good to be on the road and try to exercise undue force on otherwise motorists who are enjoying a Sunday evening ride.
There you have it, Buyinza. Not a very good Monday for you, but all right.
No, he will also understand there are also people, he has got platform on the road, others have got platform wider. We'll make him famous. If he thinks that the Northern Bypass is extremely lucrative for him to make his business deals,
it is a lucrative one, actually, that Northern Bypass for, yes, brigands like those, but even the other form of brigands, the real guys that clobber down people and so on. Anyhow, looking at what's happening...
And sadly, crime is being committed on the bypass. People are being... Man was attempting to do yesterday was petty theft.
It is.
And after all, how much the state that I don't...
Any more Ugandans like this?
If I don't even bother, I will face my repercussions, fair enough. But you can take your children to school on other accounts, but not on Kasiate's money. That one I refuse.
He says, you may not believe it, but some MPs live with less than 200,000 shillings per month. They can't manage their money, and that's why we want to help them. Actually, some I'm told, go away with about 70,000 shillings after the loans have been cut and stuff like that.
Well, maybe you need to share with them the kicker of this story. They say, analysis shows that life is not rosy for many former MPs, and they have themselves to blame. The word former here is the catchword. But I even think current MPs are not having it any easier. Justifying this and saying, we as members 10 weddings this year.
Maybe you want to become a member
of... Go back to our workplace. I have not gone back to ESCOM to tell my affairs manager I need to keep up an image, I need to contribute at funerals, I need to contribute whatever, I need to give beggars on the streets, I need to give to thieves like Buyinza on the road. No. At the end of the day, they must educate their electorate that they are legislators and not pigeonhole, what they call them, piggy banks. And other sorts of things.
It's good you bring in that angle, Simon. Look, I think...
And it is them to blame because they have commercialized their politics. They have made their constituents believe that
have we also commercialized it with the constituents? Look, at the end of the day, I'm thinking...
Leadership is all about changing our mindsets. They should go out there, bite the bullet. I mean, what is so do or die about being in parliament? If he fears to tell his constituents in Bufumbira that, look here, I am there to make laws that are going to make life better for you, to be able to earn your money the rightful way and spend it worthwhile, rather than me giving you small handouts of soap, sugar, coffins, and wedding gowns.
I'll tell you, I hear both sides. It's pejorative that our MPs behave this way. They want to increase their pay, etc., etc. As the economy gets tighter, the rest of everybody is not having their pay increased, but the MPs keep asking for a higher pay. But look, I like to look at the other side, because here they say, and they have themselves to blame. Maybe at times they have us to blame as well. And I think it should be concerted efforts. MPs should go out there and help people understand what their role is. Civil society organizations that are huffing and puffing about everything else, well, much of the time they do a good job, but can we see more education to the constituents out there? What the role of a member of parliament is? There are about 4 cardinal ones, legislation, scrutinizing government services and superintending over them, giving oversight, and then, of course, the budgetary process and what's it, about 4 of them or thereabout, you know. So I think we need to help people understand what is the role of a member of parliament. And MPs should not be disingenuous themselves too, because many times they promise things, you know, this school I'll refurbish it, this I'll do it, you know. When they get there, ngachivalia. So it's true, we need to do something about it, you know, for the sake of these MPs, but for our sake too, because
whatever
if they're not helped, they'll keep nibbling away at our economy. So who suffers at the end of the day? You and I. So.
No, but we can do anything to save the MPs. But one thing is for sure, I would not support a move to increase their
No, that's not even what I'm saying, you know.
They should hit themselves on the chest and realize that the buck stops with them and it starts with them. They are leaders. They need to take leadership very seriously. They need to go and change the mindset of people. They also need to live within their means. Many of them do not live within their means. These are former, well, teachers, journalists, and all sorts of things. When they eventually get to parliament, they begin to start thinking that now they should start living on, you know, start living and eating oysters for lunch and, you know, going to the moon for holidays. Clearly, it is not a thing that people should be proud of. That you have members of parliament who do not live within their means, who for all the time, rather than thinking of more ways of making legislation better, they're looking for other ingenious ways of I mean, all these investigations you see that never really take off. All these ad hoc committees. There's one I had recently which has just been formed, and Honorable Abdul Katuntu was saying we need full facilitation from the House to investigate this matter to the core.
I see why you're headed to, and this weekend I was having a chat with people who are also looking at the same direction. That look, many times when these guys talk about a committee and so on, it's because they know they're going to rip out of it. But look, I think Ugandans generally, we are very hedonistic. We love pleasure. You know, when your status ups a little bit, your spending goes up a little bit. So I think we need to cultivate that now, you know, so that if I cannot do that now, if I step a little bit higher now and I begin to live in a very wanted manner, when I become an MP, it will be a lot worse. So
the East African this week is looking at Uganda's new rekindled ties with the Democratic Republic of Congo in a bid to exploit better the oil that seems to be seated underground along their common border. And of course, let's not forget that Uganda and the DRC have had their spits in the past where there's been allegations of invasion, plunder, and all sorts of things, including a $10 billion fine that the International Court of Justice did slap on Uganda for the plunder of Congo sometime in the
which we have not paid back yet.
When negotiations are going on, and that's precisely what this story is talking about, that there is indeed a move to ensure that Uganda and the DRC have amicable relations so that, you know, they can harness whatever natural resources lie between their common border.
Census extended by 2 days now. There was an 11th day added. That was yesterday. I hope many people got counted or enumerated for that matter. But they said that between Wednesday and Friday, they will give, you know, an allowance for people, especially in places like Kampala and Wakiso. There's been chaos. Okay, besides the bad weather, there are places where the enumerators went on strike. We are not working, the pay is low, etc., etc. So there were challenges and, of course, border points and so on. So they're extending it a little bit further. Why did I see this coming? You know, in this country, we don't mean what we say and we don't say what we mean. And I'll tell you,
it depends. The other day, there was a huge move by one of the commercial banks. And sorry, I have to mention their names, Standard Chartered Bank. They had this great sale that they had with incredible low loan rates. And there was a deadline to it. So maybe a day before the deadline, I said, well, maybe I'll think about, you know, getting myself a financial facility from these people. Expectedly, I thought they were going to extend the period. And boy, oh boy, when the deadline came, boom, they haven't. And
I think we need to have a lot
And I don't think
that.
they are going to revise that. It's been a week down the road. So clearly, there will be some institutions that mean what they say.
The private ones, yes, do. But government ones, you know, ID registration, I don't know, SIM card, now census. Same old, same old, same old.
Well, these are rebels that for the most part have been referred to as the Interahamwe, the FDLR fighters. According to the East African this week, they have set new conditions for surrender. And some of these conditions include the fact that their security must be guaranteed. All this is in the East African. Very interesting regional news here, if especially you are one who loves to get an insight, deep insight into what's happening in the region. This is the paper you can't afford to miss. And of course, it's got interesting news, it has got analysis, and of course, it's got a very captivating magazine where they're featuring Uganda's ace cartoonist. Maybe many of you do not remember him, but of course, he is alive and kicking, Mr. James Tumusime, who is reminiscing about his old good days as he drew the cartoon Bogi Benda in the Daily Nation. Of course, let's also not forget that he was one of those who popularized the cartoon Ekanya that still runs in one of the daily publications in Uganda. He is a publisher in his own right and runs Fountain Publishers. His story is in the East African this morning.
Daily Monitor reports, you know Mbabazi, the Prime Minister, Honorable Mama Mbabazi. He's telling youth here, that was at the International Youth Day in Kabali, was telling them, pursue your dreams with passion. And this youth was saying, look, Honorable Prime Minister, we know you have a certain dream that you are chasing around, so pursue it with passion. They gave him emblems and stuff like that. I hope it didn't chew him at the end of the day. Wembley boss heads to NAT. This is Brigadier Eli Karuhanga, Eli Kayanja rather. Boss. This is Eli Kez. This is Eli Kayanja, Brigadier, the guy who clobbered the hell out of these brigands we had in town.
You won't mistake my name for Simon Kutesa, since we are both SKs.
That one you would want. If it was another Simon something else, maybe not. Well, as the army, of course, takes over NAT, they feel this gentleman, since he did a fairly good job here in Kampala, I don't know, is he going to beat up these piglets and stuff like that? New Chief Justice to be named soon. This is according to Justice James Ogola, chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission.
That's quite very interesting.
I hope that comes through pretty soon.
Well, that I don't have a case in court yet. I mean, Chief Justice, no Chief Justice, well, there we are. Museveni advisor attacks president over Chabazinga. This is the headline story we're waking up to in the Tri-Weekly Observer this morning. And who is this presidential advisor that's attacking her own boss? And this is Maureen Chalia, who has, together with, who has wrapped the blame or the attack, President Museveni and the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, in one bunch and accused them of meddling in Busoga's royal succession affairs. I mean, clearly, this lady, I do not know who has given her the balls, literally, to attack these two people, but clearly, this will not go down well, especially from the Right Honourable Speaker.
She's been raising a lot of dust, this
who
lady.
Is knee-deep into this organization, and we are told that on Saturday this week, all roads will be leading to, indeed, the seat of the Busoga Kingdom for the coronation of
which one?
I think it will be Gabon this time. We certainly are securing VVIP cards as serious investors in the region. I will be there.
Now that there's a Chabazinga.
I will be there to, you know, of course, among other representation of our good company, ESCOM. So we'll be there, and I will return here Monday next week to tell you of the goings.
I hope you'll have good news for us. Look, this lady has raised a lot of dust. At some point, she was actually about to be lynched by residents there. But I see her point here.
I don't know whether she can show up in
I see her point here, you know, because this seems to be two-sided. Gabula comes from Kamuli, where Madam Rebecca Kadaga, the Speaker, is district woman member of Parliament. And some people feel she actually pushed this to make it happen, you know. And of course, there are people who think that quietly His Excellency the President supports Wambuzi. And there seems to be friction. And that is why the Wambuzi faction can confidently install him as well. So, I don't know, confusion in this good place of ours. I hope it gets remedied.
Well, we have had many allegations, finger pointings, and insinuations that first-hand Brigadier Kaineru Gaba intends to stand for the presidency in 2021. In fact, a tweet came in from Dr. Kiza Besigye not so long ago saying, has the Muhoozi project started, especially showing him, you know, showing a picture of him at a training school of the police and being, you know, welcomed by,
or something?
Exactly, welcomed by the recruits. And we see a very firm no from the Special Forces Group spokesperson Major Chris Magezi, saying that Brigadier Muhoozi is not interested in the 2021 bid. But of course, this is just 2014, and we do not know what will happen between 2014 and 2021. If he becomes interested, well and good.
But look,
the
he's
IGG.
Well, I was just going to say that Brigadier Muhoozi has not come out clearly in any way. He doesn't seem ambitious, at least as far as the presidency is concerned, you know. But of course, there's all this fire around him, pushing him.
That's his strength.
Perhaps that could be, you know. Then eventually, you see, my people. Me, I don't want, but my people want.
Members of Parliament's absenteeism is corruption, says the Inspector General of Government.
You can say that.
The IGG has said that being absent or taking money for sittings that you did not participate in, that is a quintessential case of corruption. Honorable IGG, thank you very much for bringing this to the fore. Now can we see you bite? You see, you've told us what corruption is, but you are not just there to tell us what corruption is. You are there to crack a whip on corrupt officials. So can you, as the Inspectorate of Government, now crack the whip on absenting members of Parliament to ensure that they answer for their corruption charges? I mean, for the most part, we see them huffing and puffing in committee rooms, accusing executive CEOs of government, you know, bodies like NSF and the like, accusing them of corruption, and the other. Well, I think now the hunter should turn to be the hunted. And you see the Observer this morning.
Some actually are present on paper because apparently they go sign and then they leave. You know, when you look in Parliament, they're about 15 or so, but then in the register, it is a whole bunch. You're thinking, what went
Mityana
right?
police officers under probe over extortion and torture.
You were not tortured, I hope.
No, I mean,
you were tortured mentally.
It starts with extortion. Then before you know it, they will torture you. I mean, this man tells me, you come out and show me your third party. Me, I'm on the road.
But I thought it's supposed to be displayed on the windscreen.
That's precisely my point. I mean, he's the one outside. Let him do his job.
Out.
But I think he wanted to size me up, see whether I'm not a person with disability and all that. I am telling you, by the time I'm done with this, he is a character. You know?
But then the other error is these guys enter and sit in people's cars. They're not supposed to.
I would have gladly welcomed him to enter that car and given him a 21-kilometer ride at the end of the whatever. Yeah. But he didn't. He didn't even put his head through. He was just standing outside, boostering around with his pot belly. I said, my goodness, what is this? 250 medical workers leave Uganda annually. This is a case of brain drain that this country has been grappling with for the most part, especially with such professional vocations like medicine and, of course, educationists like teachers. And this is the point of worry. But it is in the Observer this morning. Get yourself a read and find out what it is.
And I understand we spend a lot more on training our daughters than anywhere in the region. We spend quite a bit. Of course, they pay tuition,
and we are
which is high. We make very good ones. That's why they are sellable in South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, in the UK. But we don't value them. And even though we want them to be patriotic, we say, you know, serve your country and so on. Look, at the end of the day, bread and butter issues hit the road. So no surprises.
Well, we're also waking up to another interesting story coming in from the Mengo court, that Mengo court as in the court of the Kabaka. Chiefs plot to abandon Mengo. Why do they intend to abandon Mengo? There's been quite some acrimony between these chiefs and the establishment at Mengo for many other reasons. Some of them wanted to travel to the US and the UK with a category for a tofadi. Others want some more recognition. Others, you know, they're making a few demands here and there and all sorts of things. Now it's coming to the point where they intend to abandon Mengo. What does that say about the Umoyo Gwabugando Gutafa, which I've always been hearing about?
I don't know. For many people, you know, when you're given an appointment later, it comes with Funida one, that kind of thing. But, you know, serve your Uganda, serve your Uganda, ultimately. You know, me, I'm actually more concerned about Uganda than the cultural institutions. Not that they are mundane in any way, but the bigger picture I like to think of.
The editorial of the Observer this morning is talking about jiggers and their need for a comprehensive socio-economic intervention. And yes, I think this is a message that's going out to those who are going to colonize or coronate. What's the term? You're the guy who knows better English.
Coronation.
The Chabazinga, I think that should be one of his key intervention points as he gets onto the throne. Let's go to healthy living, which is your favorite Monday pull-out in the Daily Monitor this morning. We're talking about the unfortunate thing called steel bats. Why is it still a big problem? Steel bats is the delivery of a dead baby, so to put it. Why is it still existent? Get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor and read what causes steel bats and how you can avoid that kind of debilitating condition. Of course, there are very many other interesting stories in the healthy living, including why self-medication is a big threat in rural areas where people just go and say mpayo chidi without necessarily going through proper diagnosis. Of course, there is other news coming in from other regions, the eastern. We know that rains are clobbering this country real good. Cars are getting stuck, and so pictures of motorists getting stuck on roads is certainly one of those that is now a common sight. Floodings and all sorts of things, including in the sports section, where the news finally comes in. Well, if you haven't yet known, our good old motor mouse, Moses Gorola, was silenced by this American kickboxer.
I like what his opponent said, Abraham something. You know, he said, look, before the match, Gorola talks a lot, but me, I like to do my talking in the ring. When that guy said that, I got worried. I said, they're going to thump us. You know, Gorola yaps quite a bit, but I supported him as a Ugandan, but
well, there we have him. So possibly he will now realize that in that sport it's more than just talk. It's a bit of some action. But clearly, let's also give it to him. He is a guy who has certainly cut out his niche.
He has promoted this game, without a doubt.
Exactly. So maybe he may start thinking of, because with all these loss after loss coming back to back, he may start thinking of a change of career. He will possibly do very well as a comedian, or even a music. He could even do very well as a movie actor. He's featured in a few movies here, including even a nativity movie about the birth of Christ, which I think
we had it here on NTV.
Exactly, which I think was quite an an epic performance on his part.
Good for him. I thought I should read these two here. Somebody writes here in the opinion section, Uganda's problem is weak institutions, not the powers in our constitution. I've had talk, people saying we need to amend our constitution, etc., etc. Maybe there's one or two things we need to alter for good. But look, much of the time our institutions are very weak, and little wonder. Then there's this cult members counted forcibly. This is good news. There's this People's Trust bunch of fellows who say for them they can't be counted, they don't use mobile phones, they don't go to hospitals, they don't take their children to school. Absolute nonsense. It's good they're being counted forcibly. Don't wait to be counted forcibly. Between Wednesday and Friday, that's the extension. I hope those that have not been counted will make good of that.
Well, you remember him, Stephen Kiprotich, Uganda's gold medalist at the last Olympics. We are getting news that he came third in the Great North Run, where British Mo Farah, of Somali origin, won this great run in Newcastle yesterday. I think that is quite some good performance, coming third well, but we all obviously expect him to come first, especially given that the kind of guys that are winning this race are people like Mo Farah, who are, yes, long distance runners, but not as epic as Kiprotich when it comes to marathons and half marathons. But also in golf, which I'm sure many of you must already know by now, but it's here in the Daily Monitor this morning. Golfer Willie Kitata clinches thrilling sudden death playoff. This was quite very interesting at the Ugandan Open, where for the amateurs, a Ugandan did take it, which is Willie Kitata, and for the professionals, Dewa Kope did win it, which has been a long time coming for him as the profession that he is being.
Is that the one where some guy, you call it a what? You're the guys that play golf. They teed once and, you know, made a hole or...
A hole in one and things like that.
Languages. Anyway.
Well, they're very interesting terms on the golf course. I got to meet them when I was a sports news anchor about 15 years ago, and I was always amused by the language they're using. Buggy, bogey. I said, what is this? Handicap? What are handicapped people doing you know, on the greens? And the handicap 25, say, this is not 25 handicaps. What's this? But clearly, that is a game that you need to pay particular attention to for you to understand the lingua. Yes, I almost said Mabel is standing by, and then I just remember that this is the not very good-looking face of Mr. Mulondo standing by in the studio to give us international news. Mabel, of course, missing out in action, engaged in some other action, which I'm sure Brian will share with our viewers. I'm sure they always want to know what's happening in our lives, and Mabel's happening certainly would make for some good and interesting banter. Brian, what's happening on the international scene? Share it with us.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. The first thing I want to talk about this morning is Obama responding to ISIS, and of course with the beheading of 2 journalists, and the latest was, I don't know if you've seen that bloody video. Of course, some of us are deciding not to show it. NTV will definitely not show that video, but very, very brutal. Stephen Sotloff, who was beheaded, and Obama this time, and of course he comes under a lot of criticism for not having said anything, deciding to go and play golf and sending a message that maybe we shall not be moved by the actions of ISIS. And this on Wednesday is going to deliver a speech and is going to talk about how the US will respond in this time. And of course he's quoted saying that he's not going to involve the US troops in ISIS. So we'll find out what he's going to do. But they say the president gave his most direct and detailed assessment of ISIS since the terrorist group has brutally decapitated 2 American journalists and killed thousands of Iraqis. That is some very sad news coming in there. But also, rape routinely used in DRC prisons, especially to torture politically active women. That's a story you can find on the BBC page, especially when it comes to Africa. Very, very shocking details there also. But something that should probably, well, I don't know, has not made most of the people in the UK very, very happy. Scotland is in the process of moving away, becoming independent of the UK. And on September 18th, it's going to be a referendum that will decide whether Scotland should become its own nation away from Britain. And of course, we'll be following that story. So far, the opinion polls say that 51% in favor of Scotland becoming independent. There's also another article that talks about what Scotland should learn from Quebec. So check out Reuters and read this story. This has made stories, headlines across most of the news agencies, but Egypt has arrested 7 men for taking part in a gay video that went viral on social media and is accusing them of inciting and undermining public morals. Well, I guess should someone argue that maybe that's something that Uganda should also do. But you can go to aljazeera.com and take a look at that story. Now, you've been complaining that probably it's MPs in Uganda that are interested in salary increments. Well, MPs in the UK are also requesting for a 10% increment in their salaries. And one of the MPs here saying, you know, the proposal by Parliament to increase our salaries is totally ludicrous. And the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority has recommended that MPs should get an extra £7,000 on top of their £67,000 salary every year. Now, I did some math. 67 by 4,000. A pound is at 4,000 shillings. About 250 million shillings every year. Now, on top of that, they need an extra 7,000 pounds. That will come to about 290,000 pounds, 290 million shillings every year when you change it to Ugandan money. Well, I must say, and it is very hard to confess, that actually some of our MPs may be earning more than that every year. They've just received about 100 million to clear their debts. So maybe the guys in the UK deserve more. Well, you can check out, this is on dailymail.co.uk. And of course, unfortunately, that's all we had for you on the international scene. When we come back, the big story. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Babe, you know you are truly an angel.
Oh.
I love your walk, your smile, your laugh, everything. You know what else, babe?
What?
You smell. Oh no, I'm out of airtime. Shops are closed. I have to wait till tomorrow before I can get airtime. She'll think I was saying she smells.
Get airtime instantly with your phone.
What?
Just use Airtel Money. Dial *185#, select buy airtime, and follow the steps.
What?
Sorry, babe. My line got cut. I was just saying you smell better than any flower in the world.
Top up with Airtel Money and get 100% bonus airtime instantly with every top up made. Now that's 100% extra from Airtel. Dial *185# to top up now.
Airtel Money. Simple, secure, instant.
Guess what show just won Best Entertainment Program?
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
It's my time!
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV, thanks for the support. Log in, ndiwa nole ronzi ze kukakasa.
You're Golfy and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's Login.
We could do this all night. We could do this all night.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
On the next episode of Deception.
Chicha tusekuno muli mwali wanyi. Mubadde mukolagana?
Tubadde bulungi olaba namujja ne wansi ng'abadde takyasulawo era namuteeka ku kitanda oyo nkolagana kyesingako tubadde bulungi
Lillian, you don't have to hate me so much just because Gilbert wants me and not you. God knows I've tried to push him away, but he keeps coming back.
Who the hell does this guy think he is?
Deception.
You can download movies at the lowest prices another fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
The 8th day of September 2014, a wonderful start to the week. And of course, yes, I must also inform you that the Ministry of Energy, together with many of its partners, are starting a whole week of nothing but on very good discussions and exhibitions in the Energy Efficiency Week, which is going on at the Forest Mall parking lot, where you can go and get yourself some information on how to sustainably and of course efficiently use the energy that's before you. That's electricity, wood fuel and the like. And there will be all sorts of great exhibitions coming in from many people who supply these wonderful sources of energy that should certainly not be effective to our environment. And of course, one of the big exhibitors there will be NTVUganda Limited, who are, as always, generating clean energy from water. This morning, we are looking at the phenomena of the owners of the cars getting back on the road. What am I talking about? The beginning of the new school term, where in urban areas like Kampala, to be very specific, the traffic is getting back to its heightened self. And of course, there will be a lot of traffic and a lot of activities, thanks to the fact that the school holiday has come to an end and the pupils, students, and all others are back for their third term. This morning, we're discussing what this whole back to school thing really means, not only for the students, but for the parents, guardians, and all those of you who are neither parents nor guardians or even students, like yourself, Joel.
Interesting. Yesterday I was having a chat with, a couple of friends at church. Many have children, and they're telling me, hey, school is starting, school fees and the like. And some are taking toddlers to school. And I just thought about it. Back in the day, our parents used to beat us for going to school to play. Nowadays, parents pay for children to go to school and play. And they don't pay peanuts. They are gazumped. They are ripped off. It is stupendous amounts that they do pay. Some say, well, children need to go out there and learn one or two things and that kind of thing. But yes, the issue of school fees, Then there are these endless requirements. You talked about brooms. You're telling us cement. I don't know, Vim.
Rolls of barbed wire, Vim, then toilet paper. And they choose
some of these things they never use.
Choose brands. If you are going to bring Jik, you must bring Jik colors.
Reams of paper and so on. And you keep thinking, do these guys have hardwares, and that kind of thing. Education is increasingly becoming very expensive. The challenge, though, is it is not becoming better. Uganda used to, back in the day, have a state-of-the-art, if you like, kind of education. We're envied by literally everybody. But now, Kenya is giving us a run for their money. These guys used to come here and study here, and they found our education a really good one, But nowadays, we run there for education and that kind of thing.
I think the quality of education will be debated for another day, but we're looking at this paraphernalia and the rush back to school and all that. Is it a case of schools being so demanding, or is it a case of parents thinking that the more you be seen to splash on your child, the more you are regarded highly on the social ladder? Is it a case of consumerism? Because I visited the supermarkets over the weekend, and I can tell you at my local supermarket here, Capital Shoppers in Akawa, you could hardly find space where to place your food, because everybody is in this back-to-school rush. They are buying cartons of Splash. The others are buying cartons of mineral water. I think now some students in boarding schools are bathing mineral water because they cannot bathe normal water. I do not know, but clearly you could see that pupils are being shopped for in a manner akin to shopping for, well, a big day like a wedding, because you see what people carry in their cases. And then, of course, I'm told now traffic is bumper to bumper at school gates, where you have this people being dropped off in a Land Cruiser VX, and the entire boot is filled up with grab and things like that. Are we actually training people who are willing to live and face the world as it is come tomorrow, or we are busy babying our children and trying to live the life we should have lived through them, and in essence, spoiling them?
I think it's a bit of both. Look, when I see persuasive adverts, I keep thinking, And you see, many of these kids, they cram these adverts, so they go shopping. Mommy, I want this, because they've seen this persuasive ad and it has caught their attention, and at the end of the day, they'll throw tantrum and the parents are like, after all, we have the money, let's give them, and there's that. But of course, there's parents who want, they are something, and they know this child belongs to Simon Kasiate, whoever it is, some brand out there, and so they want to show a bit, because when they go interact with their fellow students, some have hardcore, others have pizza, I don't know what they take to, those things, So I think it's a bit of both, but do they have this money to spend? I hope they do. You talk about, raising chaps that are probably not ready for the world out there, and that is why many a young person today, when they leave the university and they are on their own, the world is tough. The world is tough for them because of the way they have been nurtured. Am I in any way saying that parents should, because I've had some parents say, look, me, I walked, I don't know how many kilometers to school. I put on my first shoes in that kind of thing, So the children should suffer too. No, I don't agree with that. You now are a little bit better off. Give your children a semblance of a good life, but to the extent of spoiling them, I think it will affect you too, because when you are away tomorrow, what happens to these children? There's need for a balance.
Earlier on, you talked about a situation where now children are being paid for to go to schools and play. In other words, we are looking at situations where now parents will be glad to send children, whatever age, to schools. They are looking forward to that day of, let's get rid of these obnoxious characters and take them to where they belong, in those concentration camps called schools. Could that also explain why there is possibly increasing enrollment in boarding primary schools? I'm even told that they are, I won't mention the name, but somewhere on the Zirowe Gayaza Road, I passed by some school, and honestly speaking, I was shattered to see the size and age of they are the age of my 3-year-old in school, being mothered by another 5-year-old, and for me, cut the picture of an orphan, really. Yet in Eastern, these are children who've got parents, but parents would be gladly willing to fork them out into schools to live on their own. What does that say?
I'll tell you something that bothers me is seeing kindergarten kids, even P1, even primary for the most part, these kids being taken to boarding school. Now, of course, my baby brother, when we were younger, he had to join boarding school because, my father had passed on, my mother was not around and that kind of thing. But anyway, again, the school, it was for a relative, so he was home in a way. But look, I see these toddlers being taken to boarding school, the parents are available, it is not right. I get bothered. Why? Of course, some will say, look, we are trying to make money out there, but you see, you're making this money for who at the end of the day?
We are glossing over
the values in these children.
We are glossing over the issue of these requirements. When a school says bring a bag of cement, bring slashers, 2 of them, bring 2 brooms, bring 4 rugs. I mean, I dropped off a cousin of mine to a secondary school here, and they were asking for 2 rugs from a senior 6. I almost told them, I wasn't in such a mood to put up a discussion. Because you see, for the most part, when I've tried to engage authorities or people, wherever they are in their cocoon of influence, when you try to engage them and reason with them, they think you're being obnoxious, you're trying to bring your journalism to them, you're bringing gurugezgezi because you wear spectacles. So I have now since stopped. That's why, by the way, I have now vowed. A traffic police officer stops me, and I clearly know I have not done anything. Because now, like yesterday when this Winza character stopped me, I was having a jolly roof open, just enjoying a ride on the bypass. And the man stops me. I gladly stop to have someone to talk to. And this character comes only to want to rob from me.
So you're not going to be stopping anymore. So how will they know there's nothing wrong with you or your car?
Unless he has got a BMW motorbike. These ones I see in dummies.
Many of the years.
That's what I see in the dummies. But other than that, we'll go on a chase. I also want to give myself some adrenaline run. Anyway, back to the issue we are talking about. You ask yourself, what do these items go to do in these schools? And why do parents gladly fork out these requirements? Already the school fees is in obnoxious sums of money. You are paying more than 500,000 shillings for a secondary school person. You're paying close to 1 million shillings. And you see, the lower the grade, the higher the school fees is. Then they're asking you for a roll of barbed wire. They're asking you for 2 slashers. They're asking you for, and there's, say, 1,000 pupils or students in that school. There is now 1,000 rolls of barbed wire. Are they fencing an entire sub-county? What are they fencing?
Look, education has become lucrative in this country. People now put up institutions, whatever, secondary school, university, because it's making economic sense at the end of the day. But much of the time they fail to make even, because again, there's an extent to which you can squeeze money in form of school fees. So they're trying to balance it up. I imagine. I'm trying to think like they are.
It is outright theft where you have
for some of them, yes,
someone has a secondary school, but he also wants to use it as capital for his hardware shop and say...
To start another branch.
No, even for hardware shops. I mean, clearly I see... Tell me, if there are 1,000 rolls of barbed wire in a school...
Where are they going?
Exactly.
It's a big concern. It is a big concern,
But why do also parents gladly, without question, Do things like PTA still work in schools?
You know, I raised that point here some time back. You know, we used to have these back in the day, PTAs. They don't exist.
Where you question the school administration and management and say, look, you are levying so much, but what is it going to do for the benefit of our pupils, for the benefit of the school? So then parents and teachers can agree or to disagree. But many parents have become laissez-faire. They tend to leave, I mean, for as long as I can afford the role of Babdu, what's the big deal? What's the big deal if I can afford the school fees? Let me just send them. We know we are a complacent country. For how long can we keep it like this?
Look, I get bothered when the parents are charged colossal sums for their children to go to school. I think that is something that needs to be addressed. But again, sometimes I find it difficult. I'm between a rock and a hard place to cut slack to some of these parents because they're not available. You talk about they're called for meetings to discuss certain issues. They don't show up. For some parents on VDs, they send either the maid or the uncle or the young brother. They pretend they are very busy. It is not right because you see at the end, so how are you going to complain? Anyway, how will you even know what these things are used for if you're not available? So maybe they should keep being gazumped, ripped off. I don't know. Not that it's a good thing.
Until a point where they get angry enough to be part of the
Yes, yes, because they don't complain like you said. They have the money and so it is okay, so they don't know what is happening and so on. There are parents who after senior six, that's when they realize their children have not been studying or that kind of thing. They're not involved, so who is to blame?
Well, we'll close it on that note where we now talk about the heightened extortion of especially police officers in the wake of this back-to-school season. Have you also realized the same thing that many times you get a lot of this coming in your way? You get police getting even more unkind, especially traffic police officers on highways.
As kids go to school during festive seasons and that kind of thing, they've got families to feed too, so I imagine they are out there trying to make a living. But look, at the end of the day, because you're talking about, you're saying you're going to pay that fine. You know, how many Ugandans are willing to pay a fine of 100,000 shillings, of 200,000 shillings? Now they have been
I will gladly put the fine to the government coffers.
That's for you.
Of course, I know.
There's not many people
that think that way. But at the end of the day, well, someone is going to steal it somewhere, I know, but it will not be wins. But that particular person, you see, I will deny that police officer the benefit of getting a direct bribe from me. I would rather give it to government and just go about the feeling that, oh, possibly I have made someone's life better. I have maybe bought Panadol at the National Medical Stores, or I have repaired a little pothole somewhere.
But you see, you talked about earlier of Ugandans being lazy, we just live laissez-faire lifestyle and that kind of thing. When a traffic officer arrests you, the convenience, the time, now you're given a receipt, you know, he's probably taken your permit. You've got to go and queue up in the bank to pay, and the amount is stupendous. So some people reason it out very quickly and be like, you know what, giving this guy 10K, juxtapose that against 200,000 shillings of a fine that I'm going to run around and, you know, try to pay, etc., etc. They're thinking, this is an easier way out, you know.
And the police know that.
Would be.
And police, they know that. They know that they will subject you to a level of inconveniencing where you will now weigh your opportunity cost and say, why should I get inconvenienced?
I'm late here.
This guy kept me there for about, what, 15 minutes? I could have as well gone halfway the bypass, you know, just enjoying my Sunday ride. But he kept me there because he wanted to break my spirit and, you know, and then, good enough, he didn't find me in a rush. I was not going anywhere, particularly where I had to be there on time. So I had all the time I packed and... So
I've got to do what is right. I think it's very
brushing. I mean, we go around, document. And of course,
but surely
getting involved is the answer this morning, and that, of course, for the most part, makes it as our conclusion for the big story this morning. And guess what? We've been hearing inside in this program have obviously been views expressed by ourselves and myself, to be very specific, and that makes it for the Simon Says this morning. Have a wonderful morning, a fresh start to the week, make it productive, and yes, may God bless you till we meet again tomorrow morning, same time, same place, with another interesting topic to discuss.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal court targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
what show? Just one. Best entertainment program.
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV. Thanks for the support. Log in. Ndiwa nole ronzi ze kukakasa.
You're Golfy and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's Login.
We could do this all night. We could do this all night.
Yeah, pull it up, DJ, baby love. Pull it up. Expose. My name is Cuts, aka Mr. Showbiz.
Hey, today listen, when I'm in Uganda, I only listen to DJ Baby Love.
When you're dancing on the light, girl walk out, your body down no fly, your fingernail them no fear fly.
You have a problem with it?
No, I ain't got no problem.
You don't use my mic, man. This is exposed mic.
I go deal with you personally.
XFB, it's officially back. Yeah, I'm in this heaty with cats. It's what we do, baby. Put UG on the map. Now come my walk. Now come my walk. Now come my walk. Now come my walk. Hey.
Tadi Muganda yagala munne kututumuka abanyankole mweyagalidde mu Kampala abajja okulonda mwafuna mu bibanja mu Uganda
I'm that dude, so they come and love it.
You're going to start paying for watching Exposed.
I wasn't born last night. I know these hoes ain't right.
Welcome to Jazz with Isaiah, a musical venture that is entertaining.
I'm a prisoner, you're a prisoner too.
Educative.
It is not about just standing on stage.
Informative.
Jazz is a type of music from the African American background.
And inspiring.
I have the goal of breaking it down.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business training, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which really have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries.
From wherever we are, we talk business, and at Money Matters,
where money indeed matters. Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Destiny River.
Victor!
Max, what are you doing here?
What are you doing in my home?
Pick up that vine rope over there and hand it to me, please.
If he is not promptly killed by the curse of LaRue, both of us will die. The last remaining Karoo.
Can you please go get me Cirso?
can download movies at the lowest prices another fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
15 after 8. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel this morning. Mabel, MIA, but I'm sure she's up to some good stuff. We'll ask her what she's been up to tomorrow. But remember, you can stream the show live on YouTube. youtube.com/NTVUganda/live and interact with us on our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. And you can also use Twitter at Morning at NTV. Let's start the discussions there. Interesting banter with the two gentlemen and the big story. And of course, we'll be reading your comments at the tail end of this show. This morning at NTV is always renowned for hosting the biggest people in film, in politics, in entertainment. This morning, I'm very privileged to share the same how can I say, the same space with a man I've watched for a very long time, but he's also in Uganda to do to promote one of his films, and he's a producer, a Pan-Africanist, he's a director, voice artist, and is well known for his role as the bad boy, Bola Abayomi, on one of Africa's first Pan-African drama series, Jacob's Cross. We all know, we've been watching Jacob's Cross for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Fabian Adioye. No jet. Morning, man. Good to see you. How do you pronounce that name?
Adioye Lojede.
Adioye Lojede.
Yeah, well done.
Where are you from originally?
I'm Nigerian.
Okay.
I'm Nigerian.
Everyone has a story. What's your story? When did you join film and how did you join?
I've always been a creative spirit, so I think when I was like 13, I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I thought I would be a writer. So I started out writing, influenced by lots of great writers. I think perhaps the most influential writer for me was James Baldwin. He was an African-American writer. And from there, I studied psychology. I had one of those parents that I was a bit, you can't tell your parents you're going to study film. So, so I decided to study psychology instead. And I went into advertising after that, because I felt that advertising would allow me to do films, get into production, because as a copywriter, they shoot commercials. So that's what I did. And I learned production really more from working as a creative in the advertising industry.
Oh, I talked to a lady yesterday, and she went, studied filmmaking and did some psychology and philosophy, and then she's now doing archaeology. She wants to do film for National Geographic, which is really interesting. Let's talk about Jacob's Cross. It's played on TV for a very, very long time. What's your role in the series?
Just an actor. I do have a production company, but Jacob's Cross is produced by another production company called Bomb. Fantastic guys. They've done, really great drama series in South Africa. And when the part came, it was actually a friend of mine, Akin, who's also an actor and director and co-producer. And he said, Fabian, I think you're going to like this role, and he spoke to the producers. I met with the producers, and we took it from there.
You play the villain. Most people would probably see you on the street and just throw stones at you. The part that you play has a lot of intrigue and a lot of suspicion, and it's obviously happening, across the whole world. For the benefit of our viewers who have not watched Jacob's Cross, what is your role in this? Explain to us your role in in Jacob's Cross?
Well, it's really about family conflict more than anything else. It's about wealth, and I guess in every family there's always a white sheep. I don't like the word black sheep.
The big elephant in the room.
You know, and my character is really the bad one, the one that represents perhaps the worst of human nature, greed, corruption, and he just wants everything for himself in a way, and he will do anything to get what he wants. I'm not sure there are a lot of human beings like that, because I think the character's a bit too extreme.
Right.
But I guess that's television. You know, you need to really go to the extreme for people to really buy into a character, into an idea. So it was quite interesting.
How doesn't that character, you know, how does it affect your personality? Because, you know, we've had lots of actors who cannot take the character, you know, they literally go with the character of set. And some of them have committed suicide. And thinking about stuff like that, doesn't it make you a bit, for lack of a better, delusional, depressed?
Well, it's a good thing I don't take my character with me. I'll probably be in prison. So, no, I'm able to shut off. I'm blessed like that. I'm able to do my thing and then totally switch and not go back there until I need to go back there. But you're right, some people do, and you know, especially people that do method acting where they need to live the character. You know, I've never been one for method acting. You know, I'm able to just get into it and go back home and be myself.
Right. What has that experience brought you? It's a series. It
it's
goes
a series,
on and on and on. That experience, how has it added
to your
film career?
It was tough in the terms that, you know, television is very time consuming. You tend to have to give quite a lot for television, but we were also fortunate because we were not doing, it wasn't a soapy, so it wasn't an everyday thing. It was really a drama series, which is more like shooting a feature film over a period of time. So in that respect, it was quite, it wasn't as tough as coming on set every single day for 6 years, because the show went on for about 6 years. But I mean, it's been great. I think also being part of a show that you can say is the first Pan-African show that for once actually brought in 2 different cultures in Africa on one platform. So for that, I think, you know, it was really great, and I loved the experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Right. Well, if you're just joining us, I'm chatting with Fabian. How do you pronounce the other name?
Don't worry, just stick with Fabian.
I think we'll go with that. And if you remember the villain in Jacob's Cross, I first watched Jacob's Cross on UBC. Went on for years. And he's here this morning, that's sharing his work, but also in Uganda to promote a film called Man on Ground. If you've not checked out the trailer, it's really about the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, where we witnessed the first black-on-black violence. And he's here to also share with us on, you know, as far as Man on Ground is concerned. Now, you are in luck because we're going to show you the trailer of Man on Ground. Check it out.
I saw an interview once with an astronaut who said that when in space, one realizes while gazing on the planet Earth that we have mistakenly constructed these narrow borders of geography in order to mimic the narrow borders of our minds. However, when looking upon the planet Earth from space, the truth that this is our collective home becomes blatantly obvious. I only hope that we realize that the labels them and us are one and the same.
What's going on?
They're talking about riots on the radio.
Femi's missing.
If I were you, I'd get out of here. There are 3 sides to every story. His, mine, and the truth.
If anybody knows what happened to Femi, it's her.
You ever have a secret hunch of how you will die? We got lost. True story.
That's Man on Ground. The trailer is absolutely amazing. If you actually have a full HD TV, you'll see no grain in the TV. Fantastic way of shooting. Did you produce the film yourself?
Well, I co-produced it. My company co-produced with two other friends of mine. Akim Motosho, who's the director and writer of it, and Akim K. Kazim.
Right.
And shortly before we began production, we brought in two other co-producers. It was Rosie Motene, and
she was here for the film festival.
Yes, yes, yeah, I was told. It was Rosie, and there was AK, and they came in towards, you know, just as we began to shoot. But the three of us, Akim and myself, we had nurtured the idea of doing a film around the issues that took place in 2008. You know, we bashed around ideas for about 2 years, trying to decide what the best story was. In as much as it is based around the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, it wasn't really the main thing that inspired it. I think obviously those attacks did touch us, you know, but what we saw then was more from a Pan-African point of view, where yes, it was xenophobia in South Africa, but there were also so many issues, you know, going on the continent. You know, you had, we thought of what happened in Rwanda. At that time, there were also a lot of Muslim Christian attacks in the northern part of Nigeria. Not what we have now with Boko Haram. It wasn't even that serious then. And we just felt there was just so many black on black going on the continent. And obviously that was the one that we knew because we were all in South Africa and we had a tie to South Africa working there. And we decided, okay, let's tell this story, but at the same time use it more as a platform to open discussions around all the black on black going on the continent, whether it's based on tribalism, religious bigotry, whatever it is. That was what really inspired, you know, the making of the film.
How do you respond? You know, it's Pan-Africans, and Jacob's Cross is Pan-African. Man on Ground is Pan-African. And when you look, for example, at the politics in your own country, Nigeria, when people ask you such, you know, questions, how do you respond to such things?
Well, it depends on what the question is. I think...
let's say Boko Haram and what they're doing.
Look, I think you need to look at it in the context of the time that we're in, you know. And unfortunately, times have changed. It's no longer East versus West. I think there will always be human conflicts. I don't think there's ever a time where there's been total world peace. So I think it's not so much about the conflicts that arise, but how we set up for conflict resolution. I think that's what makes us civilized. Right. I don't think there will ever be a time in the world where there will not be human conflict. But I don't think it's the human conflict that should really determine our humanity, but really how we resolve the conflicts that arise.
Right.
You know, so if it's not Boko Haram, it will be something else. If it's not tribalism, there will always be, by nature, man. That's how we are. We will have conflicts.
Right. You're here to, promote your Man on Ground. Do we have a screening? Is the public invited?
Well, we have a screening tomorrow. I think all the tickets are
they're sold out.
It's sold out. But I'm sure if they contact the studio, they'll I'm just the man coming
You're
to
just
talk.
here. Well, we'll talk to Shanice for a few favors, and we'll see if she hooks us up. But there's a private screening tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, for members of
I think members of the public will be there. It's been organized by Moses, so I'm just a guest.
Okay. Well, check out the trailer of Man on Ground actually on our page, but also, you know, someone has just told you have your own company. Are you looking to do any Uganda collaborations?
Yeah,
you can shoot your own movie now.
That'll be nice.
We have some great actors. You know, I can't play villain, but you know.
Why not?
I find those roles too dark, and so that's why I asked you about.
But everybody has a dark side. You can't tell me you have a dark side.
Okay. So is there a possibility that, especially because I know many of our, you know, actors watch this show, and is there a hope that you will be able to do some work in the future?
No, absolutely. We're also working on a new drama series, which is actually around the music industry across the continent, but obviously using Nigerian music industry as a focus point, because it seems to be quite universal on the continent. You know, everywhere you go, you tend to find that a lot of Nigerian music sound is, you know, but I think it's also a time thing. I mean, there was a time when, you know, it was Congolese music. Yeah. There was a time where it was Jamaican music. Everybody had a Shabba ranking in there, you know. So we want to capture that world, but in order to capture that world, we also want to bring in musicians and the industry from other parts of the continent, because there's a huge collaboration going on. So that there is an opportunity for that, because when we do start shooting that series, we want to bring in a sense of the industry from different parts of Africa. So whether it's East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Southern Africa, and West Africa. So there will be a collaborative kind of presence within that show of people from different parts of Africa.
Parts of the country. Well, your dream role is playing Sankara.
Yeah, one of my dream roles, but I would say, yeah, perhaps the lead role, yeah.
Why?
He's my idol. Sankara is just my, you know, I think what he stood for is just, it's mind-boggling, and what he achieved in such a short time. And I think a lot of the problem is we don't know enough about our own African heroes. And I think the West continues to make movies about who they term to be African villains. And it's easier to make a film about an African villain than to make a movie about an African hero. Yeah. And I think he was just the ultimate African hero.
Yeah. Well, the president was assassinated by his own
best friend,
who is currently the president.
Yeah.
And he died at a very young age. And if you talk to many people, they're like, well, that would have been, you know, the ultimate African hero, alongside maybe Nelson Mandela.
Debatable, but...
Well, this morning I'm with Fabian Lojede. Have I pronounced it?
Yes, you
Lojede.
did.
And he's a gentleman who played the villain role in Jacob's Cross, but also is here to promote his movie, his film Man on Ground. Primarily really inspired about the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Check it out tomorrow. I know Moses Serugo will hook you up, probably contact him on his Facebook page, and he'll tell you how you can be part of the screening. For any upcoming actors and actresses out there, what do you want to leave for them this morning?
I think like any profession, you know, you need to work on hone your skills. I think you want to be a great actor, you need to watch great actors, you know, watch movies. You want to write, read, you know. There's no better way than to learn than to look at those that you feel have actually mastered the skill that you're trying to acquire. So I think watch movies, and don't just watch movies, actually study them, and don't limit yourself, you know. Right. You've got to watch everything, South American, Indian, right. You know. You can't have a favorite. It's like loving music and saying I only listen to reggae.
Then
you don't love music.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's your highlight of Man on Ground? What was the highlight of filming it? I mean, you shot it in 23 days.
Yeah. The highlight, there were quite a few. Just making it happen and seeing, because it was crowdfunded, it was self-funded as well. And there's always this principle that, especially it's very Hollywood, that you don't invest in your own films, which I totally disagree with. And I think there was a scene actually which. There's a river scene, I think it's in the trailer, where I had to pop out from under the water. That was quite, because it was a moving stream, and we shot in winter, and I had to hold sandbags to keep me under the water. And I think I felt ill a couple of weeks after, I think.
Wow. So
every time I remember that, and I wore, a diving suit, but it didn't stop the cold.
Wow. So
I think that is very, very memorable for me, that particular scene.
It's all worth it when the movie finally comes out.
It's beautiful. I mean, we've shown it all over the world, and the response has been quite amazing, because you tend to find that when you show it, people take ownership of it. I mean, when we showed at the in Washington at the where was it? We showed in Washington, and what you found was most people there were actually talking about, because there were lots of Ethiopians in Washington, and they were talking about how they're discriminated against by African Americans, being Ethiopians and being, and you tend to find everywhere you've shown it, it's not about the main issue in the film. Well, it is about the main issue in the film, but they localize it and take ownership of it as how it relates to them and their own society, which was really what we wanted to achieve with the film, where to generate discussion, not necessarily about South Africa or any other African country, but for people to take ownership of it. Right. We showed in Berlin, it was the same thing, at the Berlin Film Festival, and all the debates were about, the immigration issue, and how in Germany it's all about, oh, this person is from Turkey or this person is from Algeria.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome, man. Well, I hope it will have the same impact here in Uganda. Shot in 23 days, hectic, must have been hectic. Man on ground, and I will be giving you details of how you can be a part of the screening tomorrow. But thank you so much for taking off some time and coming and share with us this morning. Check out Jacob's Cross and, of course, Man on Ground. Lovely, lovely, lovely series that is. And we'll take a breather. When we come back, we'll be talking sport. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Hello, is this Munji?
Yo, this is Munji.
I am feeling your new Virgin Jam right now. It is off the hook.
Thanks, man. I'm also feeling you. Sedusa.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you can win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day. Airtel. Together we can.
A wife who you got through the office will be very insecure about you working in another place.
Always hunt up, don't hunt down.
You mean what? Go after your superior?
How dare you suggest that when a woman is aggressed against, we should look at the person who's been aggressed against?
Let the couple be. Let them sort out their issues. When they need you, then you come in.
Prostitution is being given a new brand.
All I know is that I connect people. Let's not choose to open our zips and do whatever our urge is, because I don't think that an urge is stronger than your will to say no.
People attach a lot of questions, shame to HIV.
I do not believe that when you wear a short dress, you should be around.
Marrying a wife is like having assured sex.
Anytime you come, you must have.
Yes.
To raise a population that has no clue how to be men.
Can you bring out a quality family?
I don't get married for my family.
Men, every Wednesday only on NTV.
Mubonyumiro ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, Derek, flying in the face of all for Suarez. Gunter backs it up. And cracks it in. Checo finds the net. In spectacular style. Penalty for Borussia Dortmund. And he scores.
Guess what show just won Best Entertainment Program?
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV. Thanks for the support. Log in. Ndiwa no le ronzi ze kukakasa.
Your coffee and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's log in.
We could do this all night. We could do this all night.
On the next episode, brought to you by
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Maybe you'll learn not to spend what you don't have.
Veronica, look at me, please. I owe this guy a lot of cash and have no way of paying.
It's part of my job to save Alcino from trouble.
Mari, any news on my car?
As soon as this leg heals, I'm turning myself in.
Oh, I came here to talk about something very important.
Spill it if it's important, come on.
He's not doing well.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
It's approximately 18 on to 9, and beautiful interview. Fabian Lojede here with us before on Everyday Life, and he's a guy that played villain on Jacob's Cross. Did you watch?
I watched a bit of this, but not because I was so attached to the characters. Actually, when you're playing one of the tracks from a skit from the entire thing, I could only notice Mandela first because I watched a lot of Generations. Yeah. I watched a lot of Generations.
And the guy that played Bongani Yebo.
The way you say that, you sound so
love
attached
those guys. I love those guys. I think they are some of Africa's.
I think it's one of Africa's best series.
Yes.
Ever.
Well, you can check out, the screening is on Wednesday. We'll be giving you details of how you can be a part of this, and brilliant guy there promoting Man on Ground, primarily inspired by the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. And it happens all over the whole world, Rwanda, Germany, even the US. Interesting. So if you don't come if you're not invited for the screening, you can probably buy the movie. Something that we should also talk about, going to Ghana and, I must say, winning the game. I think we won the game. We come home with an advantage. Isn't this like one of the best results away from home?
I think it's got to be. Uganda Cranes don't win so many games away from home. I always refer to 2001 in Malawi and then 2012 in Guinea-Bissau, where there are not so many others. That's an average of a result every 10, 11 years. So this is close to a result, a victory against one of the 5 or 6 African countries that regularly qualify for the World Cup. And Cranes should be pleased. I think when Tony Maweje got that goal, not many had thought that Uganda was in the game, especially knowing that Ghana had been the better side to start the game. Dennis Onyanga had to keep out as Samoa Gyan on several occasions before Uganda took the lead. But then thereafter, there was nothing to choose between Uganda and Ghana after Uganda got their goal, and eventually it had to come down to just a penalty. A phantom penalty, I've got to add, that was awarded against Uganda for Andrea to equalize for the Ghanaians. So Uganda should be very, very pleased with the result they got in Kumasi.
And someone tweeting earlier saying, yeah, another weird penalty for Ghana. African football goes down to the drain.
I've got to say that knowing how we all reason and knowing that many of us who are watching this show wish Uganda Cranes well, will be very angry about the decision. But for me, it's not like a new thing that is a bad decision. I think over the years, there are bad decisions that have gone against Uganda, especially the one that many people refer to, the one in Nigeria in Abiyokuta, where Geoffrey Serunkuma scored a goal and was wrongly cancelled out, and then this one on Saturday. But then, like football goes, we've also got some bad calls that have worked for us. I remember I was sitting in the stand in that game between Uganda and Congo-Brazzaville, but Uganda won by 4 goals, and I'm thinking, this referee must have had a Ugandan boxer somewhere before he walked into the stadium. So I think I don't want to dwell on just for me the thing that there was a bad decision against Uganda. Leave that.
It was football.
It was football. Those bad decisions will come, whether it's cheating, whether it's deliberate or some whatever. You have to move on. It's a point, and there's 5 games to go. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to get to Morocco, and this is a point that not many Ugandans thought Uganda Cranes would be having at this point in time. Now they do. You've got to look at the bigger picture. At this point will only count if Uganda beat up on Guinea Conakry on Wednesday at Nambole, because after you've gained a point away from home, then you've got to make your home fixtures count. So for me, look at the bigger picture. Okay, this is gone. You cannot change the result. You can sulk about it. You can hate African football. You can hate CAF for it. But after that, you've got to look forward and
you have to move on.
You have to move on.
Well, I must say, very proud of you, Uganda Cranes, regardless of the result. We come home with a goal, right?
A point.
A point. But we literally have 2-1 against Ghana.
Yeah.
It's important that we got a goal. So I am asking all of us to go and support the Uganda Cranes on Wednesday night. That's Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Please go there in numbers. Let's fill that stadium, 7:30 p.m. on floodlights, and let's give these guys a run for their money.
I think it would be a very good thing if we had the 12th man there, because that's decisive in some of these ties. But like I will insist, that point in Kumasi is only relevant if Uganda win on Wednesday.
I'm trying to inspire Ugandans. And
I'm saying it's only relevant if we win on Wednesday.
So we are going to win on Wednesday. So please go there and support these guys. Tell us about the other Africans. Is there another shocker?
I think the biggest shock was in Group A, where Congo-Brazzaville traveled to Nigeria in Calabar and won by 3 goals to 0 in Group A, where also South Africa won by 3 goals to 0 in Sudan. But that was, for me, the biggest, Congo-Brazzaville. And they were the better side over the 90 minutes. That's not something you would have thought about. Congo-Brazzaville were the better side in Calabar, and Nigerians should be kicking themselves about that.
I watched South Africa-Sudan, and you could see South Africa was having a field day.
Yeah, Sibusiso Vilakazi scored 2 goals there. The first game for Sheikhs Mashaba as coach, in his second stint as manager. I also, I've got to give it to the Cameroonians. They went to Congo in Lubumbashi and won in Group D by 2 goals to 0. A game where they were the better side largely. This is a Cameroonian side that hasn't qualified for the Nations Cup in the last 2 editions and have been struggling. Not the Cameroonian side from the early 2000s when they won 2 Nations Cup in a row. So they are in a bit of a rant there. Then in our group, for the interest of Ugandans, Guinea won by 2 goals to 1 against Togo in Morocco. So that's something we should look at. If Guinea come here and pick a point, they stay ahead of the group. If Uganda beat Guinea on Wednesday, Uganda is top of the group. So that kind of thing, Uganda cannot be too far away. But then the other fixtures that were very interesting were in Group G, where Senegal beat up on Egypt by 2 goals to 0. Egypt was second best for most of the game. And the most interesting one for me was between Tunisia and Botswana. Botswana took the lead, and Tunisia looked stunned, but they scored 2 goals within the last 17 minutes to win the game, including one, a penalty with about 4 minutes to the end of the 90 minutes, where Botswana defender jumps out and does the most stupid thing, puts his hand to the ball, and it's a penalty. Tunisia take it 2-1. Tunisia get the 3 points. very disappointing for Botswana eventually where it ended.
One of these days, we should talk about some of the most desperate things that footballers will do. And I remember Roberto Carlos one day saying, if I have to fall down in the penalty area for me to secure,
to dive literally,
a win for my team, I'll do it. So we should be looking at
there's something I always say, and probably those who have listened to me for a few years will know there's something I say that there is nothing more cleansing in sport than winning. When you win, all those are just part of the process.
Well, Isma is not too happy this morning, but let's talk about good things. Chitata is Uganda Open champion. How thrilling was the finish?
Probably the best finish the Uganda Open has had in several years. The two favorites coming into the tournament, or the three favorites, Philip Kasozadov, Mohammed and Willie Chitata, were right there till the end. And eventually, after the 4 rounds, after the 72 holes, it was between Muhomuza and Chitata because they had finished on 11 over 292. And they went into a playoff for 3 holes where they again finished level and actually went to a sudden death playoff on hole number 12. And Muhomuza hits his shot into the bunker. And that's what got Chitata the victory. But this is redemption for him. I've got to say I'm very happy to see Chitata win. I saw him last year throw away the Uganda Open and hand it to Peter Sendaula at the point when he thought Chitata had won. And I think for me, he needed vindication because he's highly regarded as the best amateur golfer in Uganda and actually probably in East Africa. So for him to go and not win the Uganda, which is the biggest tournament, was a bit of a dampener to his reputation. But eventually, he got it, and he should be very pleased with himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Golola Moses. I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
But was it expected for him to lose the match?
I thought he was never going to win. I've got to say on a very personal level, having watched the behind the scenes before the fight, Golola does not have the best management team at this point in time. So he does the organization, he's the fighter, he's the event manager, he's everything. And that's for me one of the reasons why he wasn't mentally ready for the fight. But I've got to say that to go and lose a fight against a better fighter on the day, Richard Abraham was way better than Golola.
Yeah.
On the other hand, is that probably he should have won on one of the judges' scorecards, but this was a unanimous decision because all the judges went for Richard Abraham. Though for me, surprised that one of the judges actually scored the fight at 50-35 in favor of Richard Abraham, and the others had margins of 50-47 and then 50-45. Why that discrepancy? It's so huge for someone to be 35-50 and then the others to be within 40 and 50. So a bit for me, the judges' scorecards don't read to people who have been watching the fight from the same angle or watching the fight the same way. Eventually, disappointing for Gola, but you see, whenever I look at Gola, for me, whether he wins or loses fights, we'll always remember him as a man who took kickboxing from nowhere to where it is.
Yeah.
From now, you see, after taking kickboxing to Chadondo, look where he took it. Speak Resort Munyonyo. If I've been with boxers and kickboxers for some time, I know their lifestyle. They would never imagine even walking past Munyonyo on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Now, Gola took it there. He lost the fight, disappointing for him, and he was actually complaining about the judge. I'm thinking, Golano, you got beat.
Come on, yes.
He was on the canvas on several occasions. He kept going down at least two or three times in every other round. So Richard Abraham was a better fight on the day.
Maybe, you know, like Brian was here last time and was like, maybe Patrick should just come back and manage this guy.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
He did a better job than
yeah,
many.
Golola transcending. No one has a problem with that. Doing a phenomenal job, but maybe it's time to become really, actually professional. You can't be
event manager, fighter.
You have to fight.
Ticketing expert.
But we salute you for what you're doing for the game. Pool.
Yeah.
I've been a part of Pool for like the last 3 seasons since its inception. Sewa Nambo, how did he do this?
He won the final, best of 13, that went right down to the 13th game by 7 games to 6. But Fahad Sewan Kambo, who was the winner on Saturday in Lugogo, was not the headline because the boy he beat in the final, Ivan Kanyesije, is deaf. He can't speak, and he just looks at people the way, smile at you and use a sign language, and he got to the final. What thrill is there? You've got to think about it. To have a pool player that is not like you and me, go there and get to the final. Quite some thrill. But I think for Sewan Kamba, a very important victory for him because he's seed 1 in the national seedings, but he's never won this one. Not because today he wakes up driving a Toyota Brevis and has a pool table and has a bit of 2 million shillings in his pocket. And I'm not alerting anyone who he owes money to call him right now. But I've got to say that for him, it should be vindication to go there and win the National Open. That turned out to be a deathbed for all the bigger guns. Jonah Torija went out quite early. Alfred Gomikis, all the other guys who everyone expected to be contesting for the title went out very early. So it was Ivan Kanyese in the final against Fahad Sewan Kambo. And the #1 seed in Uganda is the national champion this year.
Right. Let's talk about the Great North Run.
Yeah.
Steven Kiprotich, Mo Farah, was it expected? Kiprotich was third. Was that a commendable result?
I think it should be. He's not had a very good year, and this is a half marathon event that takes place in Tyneside or in Newcastle. Eventually won by Mo Farah, the first British win, I think, in 29 years. And that is the headline because it's Mo Farah's country, and the British will love to blow this up because one of the greatest long-distance runners. But I've got to say that in the kind of year that Kiprotich has had, normally they go into half marathons trying to find the pace for the marathon, for the longer one. So to go there and run 1 hour 35 minutes, he's got to be pleased with himself. Rather 1 hour 1 minute and 35 seconds. I've got to say he should be pleased, but it's that kind of year where at the end of it all, we'll say Kiprotich has had a very, very quiet year. With the exception of him running in the Virgin Atlantic London Marathon earlier this year where he finished 6th. And then the 2 half marathons is done. He's not really been on the podium and winning several events, but he's an attraction in the UK because he's a world and Olympic champion. So to finish third, probably good result for him. I know he should be running in New York later this year, and that should be the kind of result. It will come together at that point in time. But third place, he'll take it. But what a race this was. Right at the finish line, Mo Farah stealing it from the Kenyan, Mike Keegan. And for a moment, I thought Mo Farah had lost it, but he had a lot of recovery speed there just to go and get the result.
Right. Lots of action over the weekend, Isma. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah. Quickly. Now, I'll give you about, I think, 15 seconds for each. Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Isn't that an achievement worth celebrating?
It's something that she got to celebrate for quite some time. 6-3, 6-3, the final result as she beat up on Caroline Wozniacki in the US Open final. I've got to say, to get to 18 Grand Slam titles, and Serena Williams is on the wrong side of 30 in sport. We know how hard it is for Roger Federer to win another one.
Yes.
No, and I'm not being sexist. I'm not being, but in sport, especially in tennis, not many from the generation of Serena Williams and Roger Federer get to finals. Now Federer doesn't win any.
Have started to weaken.
Exactly. Now at this point in time, Serena is winning Grand Slams, and she's on number 18 now, alongside Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. The 3rd US Open title in a row, 6 US Open titles. I've got to say that seeing her last night win was very satisfying because the game didn't start the way it should have. Serena dominant and Wozniacki just hanging on the same level. Then Serena stepped up and then she just went and swept Caroline off the court. And satisfying result, I think, for me.
Went to the best player of the night, really.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
I love that fight. It's good, but doing something in Monza.
Yeah.
Does this add a little bit of tension now to the game?
It adds tension because the margin coming into Monza was 29 between Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. And now he trimmed that to 22. There's still 6 races to go. But you could feel the tension from the interview that Hamilton gave after winning in Monza, when he said that one of the things that he realized that Rosberg crumbles under pressure. And actually the reason why Rosberg was not a winner at Monza yesterday, he threw this away. He knew Hamilton was chasing him. The gap between him and Hamilton was going down. It had come from 3 seconds to 1 second. And he goes into a corner and takes the wrong turn. And actually, as he went wide, he lost his way a bit and went off the track. Hamilton went through and he lost it there. And he should be very disappointed in himself, Nico Rosberg, that if there is a moment at the end of the season when Hamilton wins this, if he goes on to win the Formula 1 title, everyone will look at this race in Monza as the moment when Hamilton got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be following those, some of those stories very closely, and tomorrow Isma will be giving us more details of what's happening in the world of Formula 1. But tonight, Euro 2016 qualifiers, Spain against Macedonia at 9:45, Ukraine against Slovakia at 9:45, and Switzerland against England at 9:45, and Austria against Sweden
You know, when you say England, that's the moment when I start to miss Mabel a bit.
Yeah.
Because I was going to tell us
Switzerland
will beat England tonight.
But, so you expect Switzerland to beat England?
I think they need a tremendous improvement from the way they played against, in their previous game against Norway, in the friendly. England have to play much better than they did on Friday night to beat up on the Swiss. The Swiss were playing at home. I've got to say that there is nothing to suggest England will go and win in Switzerland. There's a lot of talk in the media where Wenoni said that we cannot afford to lose the game. Yes, they cannot afford to lose the game just for the body language going this Euro 2016 qualifiers. This is the first game. But I've got to say that if you ask me to pick who would win the game, for me it looks like a draw written all over it. But who has a better chance of winning, I'd go with Switzerland.
All right, all English fans, make sure that you watch at 9:45 p.m. as your country goes down. But under the leadership of Wayne Rooney, you never know. This could he could bring some inspiration to the team. Check out Isma later at 1:30 p.m. with Lumasi and Alan as they bring you Mumuli, and of course 10 p.m. with Brian Tuka and Patrick from Club Silk at 10 o'clock on Sports Bar. Before we leave you, African proverb. It's about a minute to 9 o'clock, and we want to say have a phenomenal day today. And Mabel is getting some rest. Deserved rest.
She needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you laughing like that? Yeah. It sounds a lot very sarcastic. But Mabel, when you're back, we'll be here waiting for you.
Yeah, we'll be here. You'll be telling us what you've been up to. Interesting stuff, I'm telling you. Start the conversation on Facebook and Twitter at Dakabachigongo. Nemo Stars winning. We didn't talk about that.
Tomorrow.
Yes,
I'll tell you how important that is. The National Club Championship title they won in Fort Porto.
Yes, they tweeted me, and yeah, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have your pictures celebrating, and give us any feedback on the show. Remember, we have gone mobile also. Check out NTV Mobi. Download the app from Play Store, and you can watch NTV from wherever you are. And what else? Mwasuzemti are coming very soon. Morning at NTV continues with the Soul Moment. Bye-bye.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Use White Star Laundry Bar Soap with a lemon fragrance, and you'll have a fresh, clean day. Be like a star. Use White Star. White Star Laundry Bar Soap. All day fresh clean.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must. And that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which we have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries.
From wherever we are, we talk business, and at Money Matters,
where money indeed matters. Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
On the next episode, brought to you by
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
On the next episode of Deception.
Kyekyatuseko mulimu alwanyi mubadde mukolagana
maama tubadde bulungi olaba namujja ne wansi ng'abadde takyasulawo era namuteeka ku kitanda oyo okolagana kyesingako tubadde bulungi.
Lillian, you don't have to hate me so much just because Gilbert wants me and not you. God knows I've tried to push him away, but he keeps coming back.
Who the hell does this guy think he is?
Deception.
You can download